Hi, everybody. We're live. I'm sorry, I was catching up with Amy.
Sorry,
I'd like to introduce you to Amy
Clebus.
Chelbus. Clebus.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's known as the Warrior Princess. Dun, 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 dun. And she's a powerful intuitive whose journey reflects strength, resilience, and deep spiritual transformation. She works in a variety of modes, which we'll find out as we go through the questions. Um, Amy, would you like to say a few words to the audience and then we'll just go right into the questions?
Yes. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here and watching. I really, really love doing what I do, and I love helping people.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, and I am literally a warrior princess.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, family background. So it really fits me. But thank you, Nancy, for having me here. It's an honor. So
And
I
I
don't know.
just want to kind of cat let a few more people come in because I don't know what the problem is, but they're a little bit slow on the uptake. Everybody knows I start on time.
Except
Um,
for now.
well, no, I usually start on time and we can just go right into the questions. One interesting fact I just found out from Amy that she's related through bloodlines to Dr. Gale. They
Yes,
go
I
back to
am.
the same Scottish castle. She has the same burnt fairy flag, the legend of the burnt fairy flag that keeps the castle safe. It was one of the only castles in England that was never seized by an outside group.
We've
So,
had it for 800 years,
and it's still there. You can
and
still
it's
go.
still there.
You can still see the fairy flag. And sometime I'll have Dr. Gale on, and we'll talk about that. But if your name is McLeod and it's
It
McCleod,
it's spelled
okay, MAC.
MacCload.
Okay, I don't know. Anyway, I don't.
It
I have a hard time with the Irish O's and Macs, so you
and
have to.
Scottish O's and
Scottish O's and Macs are different for different
yeah.
reasons. Okay, we're going to start. I'm going to ask you 20 questions and then, just answer them as fully as you'd like to. And the first one is, when did you first realize you had psychic abilities?
I had an inkling when I was 12.
Okay.
I was born with my gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what happened was I was born dead, and that's when they gave them to me, and then I came back on my own, and hello. So I didn't really start using them until I was like 20,
Mm-hmm.
because I grew up in a family that was very against what I do and still
Mm-hmm.
are against what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've known it all my life.
Okay. Is there any single aha moment in your adult life that you kind of hooked in and said, well, I'm going to go with this?
When Scott talked to me
Oh, okay. Explain that, Amy.
about 6 years ago, I started having little pricks in my brain, think, think,
Mm-hmm.
think, and I didn't realize what it was at the time. And then one day I saw a live with Scott Allen. I forget what he was at that time, but Scott Allen, and he was on with somebody, and I had asked him if I was a uh, star seed because I had been having dreams constantly for 20 years
Mm-hmm.
of being on UFOs, being abducted by UFOs. Um, so I was like, "Am I a star seed?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I emailed him and I had all these questions,
Mm-hmm.
and he answered them, but out of the blue, he just sent me a reading,
Mm-hmm.
and he told me all about myself, and he said, "You need to start a channel." You
Mm-hmm.
really, really do. And I was like, yeah, right. But then he invited me to go on a live with Sherry. Voices from the Swamp, who had was having a birthday. Around, hers was around mine as well, and that was it. I caught the bug.
Good. Yeah. Well, glad. I'm glad. Have you ever read at table or read out in public or anything like that?
No, because where I live, that's a no-no.
Okay. Okay. Um, did
I
you
would
have
love
any?
to though.
Did you have any unusual experiences as a child?
Yes,
Can
I was living in Indiana at the time, and we were in a very old home that was over 100 years old,
hmm
and I could sense something was in my room, but I couldn't
hmm
see it. But I knew it was there.
Good.
And about 2 weeks later, I was staying at my grandparents' house over the summer, and I was in my mother's old bedroom,
hmm
and above the where you put your closet, there's a whole blank row,
hmm
and I saw a whole row of faces,
Mm.
just just heads, and I didn't know who they were, and they started coming at me. The heads were
hmm
moving and coming at me.
Oh, that's nice.
I was like, oh no, oh no.
hmm hmm
So I started crossing my chest, and they
hmm
went away.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah,
Good Hail Mary or Our Father prayers, those work too.
yeah. It freaked me out though. I was 12 and having heads come at you.
Well, no, I mean, that's why we need to teach the kids about the other energies that are around them. How did people around you react when you began to share your experiences?
Some were really cool about it and were like, "Oh, cool. Can you do a reading?" And others were like, "You're going to hell. You're a freak." So
hmm
it. So I knew who I could talk to about it and who I couldn't.
Got kind of instant feedback.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you
So
seek any training?
no,
You just explored it on your own?
I explored it on my own, and what you saw, my very first show,
Mm-hmm.
was what I had at the time. It was just in me.
Mm-hmm.
I had no training whatsoever.
Good.
Yeah,
Are
taught
there
myself.
any specific tools that you use as part of your practice that you've carried from early on, and then what have you added in your tool bag?
I started with Oracle,
Mm-hmm.
and then I added in tarot,
Mm-hmm.
and and then I started being able to heal out of
Okay.
nowhere. I don't know where that one came from, but I just can heal. No training, but I know what to do to protect myself. Don't worry.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm doing scrying. I'm learning scrying, and I'm learning runes.
How are you just learning those on your own, or you're working with someone?
I'm working on my own.
Oh, okay. Okay. Runes. I like runes because for those of you who don't know about runes, those are the little uh,
Little
Viking
rock.
symbols. Yeah, the
Hmm.
little rocks, and or they can be on wood. They can be. There's a lot of different mediums they can be on, but the symbols mean various things. And but the way you have to word your question is you can't get a yes no from a rune. You can't
Nope.
say should I buy this house. You have to say about the house, and the way the runes will read, it'll tell you whether you're being directed to a different house or staying where you are, or it's a very different perspective. And
Yeah,
actually, when I developed my garden, the garden thing that I read on, I said, could it have the same aspects? You can't get a yes no out of my garden either. You can get a time. One thing I asked it to put in there because tarot is crappy at time,
it
but
is.
my little garden is really the times people have asked me, will I get a job by this and so date? I can kind of say, oh, it's coming up sooner. You started looking here, and this is when it comes through. It's much better at time,
Yes.
but
Yes.
runes are lovely that way. And I hope you get when you get good enough on runes, you can come back and we'll do a rune show.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay. Um, So you didn't have any mentors. You've had mentors and teachers though, because you had Scott who convinced you to give it a shot. How else have you been led into the wonderful world of YouTube dubbing?
um, Linda G was the very first person I watched.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, this is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched her for a while, and then I started watching Scott,
Mm-hmm.
and the rest. And then I met Sherry, and the rest is history. So
Good. Yeah, Sherry's really good. She does a
yeah,
lot of fun shows. It's Sherry in the Swamp, isn't that her channel?
Sherry, Voices from the Swamp,
Voices from the Swamp. I knew she's in a swamp there somewhere.
Louisiana.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn to tell the difference between what was your psychic impression and what's imagination?
Because with my imagination, it would literally just run away with me.
Mm-hmm.
But when I knew what was my intuition, voices would talk to me. And it was really, really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Just
we're talking,
mm-hmm.
that's what it was like and what it's like.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Were there any moments where you doubted yourself?
Yes.
How'd you push
Yes.
through that? How'd you push through that?
Through my guides were like, we're not fake. We're
Uh-huh.
you're not crazy. And then at the same time, people were doing shows on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh well, okay, I'll keep going.
Well, it's
And
like
it just
anything else. You don't pick up a skill overnight.
no, it's but now I've been doing it for almost 6 years, and I can I can tell what's what.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you handle skepticism from yourself and from others?
I am doing some major shadow work when it comes to skepticism. Uh, through anything in life, I'm doing some major shadow work and doing some major improving to make myself better. But others, I know I can't change others, so
Mm-hmm.
I just say that's your opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Have a nice day.
Mm-hmm. It's the best thing. Kiss them on the cheek. Thank you for sharing. Boom.
Yeah,
You be on.
and then block them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have your abilities ever gone through strong and weak phases?
Yes. Uh, Usually when I'm really, really sick, my gifts are pretty much non-existent. They like
Mm-hmm.
shut down when I'm sick.
Uh-huh.
But when I'm good, when I'm healthy,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a really strong connection to the other world because I can see ghosts, I can
Mm-hmm.
hear them, I
Mm-hmm.
can see animals that have
Mm-hmm.
crossed over. It's it's weird, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
No, 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 no. I mean, first of all, it's weird because not everybody does it. And then second of all, it is fun. It's very interesting to see what they have to say. Um, Not to step on the toes of your show, but on Thursday, I'm going to be interviewing Tim Walter, who does house clearings, and he
Yeah,
talks about earthbound spirits. And that's what pulled him out of sort of thinking something might be going on around him. He moved into a haunted house and
I live
eventually
in a
got,
haunted house.
yeah, he could sit and talk to her. And his conversations with Jane and where she came from and how that works is what awoke him to the whole vibrations beyond what normal people normally see and feel. Although everybody feels them. He said
Yes.
that house he lived in, I don't know, when people walk in your house, do they know it's haunted?
No, I was the only one who knew.
Okay.
when I was
Because,
little. Yeah. And now in this one, second I moved in here, I was 17
hmm
and I knew something was off, but
hmm
nobody else could sense it. And then my gifts hit and I was like, okay.
now it all makes sense.
Now that all makes sense. And I see people on the lawn
hmm
and they're all over. I can't get away from them.
Well, that's because you're probably naturally a medium, and some of them are looking for you.
True. But there are times when I'm like, please go away.
Yeah, you have to learn how to do. That's part of the
Yeah.
training and learning how to do that.
Oh, trust me, I do that.
How? What? In speaking of that, the next question is, dun, 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 how do you protect your energy?
I um I meditate. I listen to Gregorian chants. That's are
hmm
very very spiritual and put the bubble.
hmm
It so
You were a monk. You're going home.
yes. There you go. Maybe I was a monk in a past life.
No, you were. I already saw you walking down the cloister. Yeah.
Oh, okay. There you go.
I
No
too like
wonder I feel so at home listening to that.
right. I too love Gregorian chants, and whenever I really get into them, it's like it's one of the first. When we finally went from vinyls to CDs, the first CD we bought was Gregorian chants, and of course the sound is so different from a CD, from a vinyl to a CD, and it was
Yes.
just overwhelming. And I said, "That's what it used to sound like." And my husband said, "No, that's what it sounds like." And I said, "Well, it sounds like what it used to sound like when I used to hear it before."
Yes, thank you. Thank you. It for those of you who don't know, Gregorian chants are like are there's just something special about it because not only because of the voices and everything else, but it makes your body vibrate.
hmm
It does. It helps with the frequency.
hmm It has a definite connection to the vagus nerve,
Yes.
to settling the whole body down.
Oh yeah, it's like I'll be really, really stressed or really something about, and I'll be listening to the Gregorian chants for 15 minutes, half an hour, and I'm almost asleep.
hmm
It just puts you to sleep. So if you have not tried it, try it. You will be happily, happily surprised.
Yes, and they're beautiful. What they are is they're actually psalms in Latin. That's the psalms, the songs of praise. That funny poetic book in the middle of the Bible that said, "How'd this get in here?"
Yeah, it's like what? But
Anyway, so now
see,
we're going.
another thing that connects us, Nancy.
What? I know we got a whole bunch of them,
Yeah,
other than Scott Allen.
I know, right?
Okay, wisdom and insights. Do you think your psychic abilities are innate, and can anyone develop them, even if they haven't really tried?
You, if you're not born with your gifts, you can still pick them up and learn them. Everybody is psychic.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody. It's just whether or not you want to pursue that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, some people might have to work a bit harder. Some
Mm-hmm.
people don't. But I was one of the lucky ones, I guess. But it, it's so much. It's so worth it. So worth it.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard work. It's hard work, but it's so worth it in the end.
Oh, it is. It really is. You
Hmm.
really will have a good time if you work on developing them.
Oh, and
Uh,
my guides are a hoot.
oh yeah,
They are.
Addie just pumps me in the back of the head and said, "Do that, okay?"
All right.
When I'm getting tired and angry and just down on things, she'll say, "No, no, 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 no. That's that's your physical body dealing with it." Because what
Yeah.
we really are, the people have it backwards. I mean, the majority of people, we're spiritual beings in a physical body, going through a journey here on earth, but the spirit was first, not the body.
Yes.
And um, I think I talked about this earlier this week, but there's several new YouTube videos out about the Ethiopian Bible, which has 88 books instead of the 66 books that are in I think there's 68 in the Catholic Bible, 66 in the normal Protestant Bible, but they have 88. And those extra 22 books are all what they call, what the Roman Church, even the Orthodox Church, causes the heretical. They're, those aren't the ones we want to hear. But they're books written by other disciples of Christ, like Mary Magdalene, Thomas, and a bunch of those guys. And I had heard about them because my first husband was in theology school. Yes, that's true. He was. And one of the professors he had was an expert on the other forms of Bibles. And one of them was the Ethiopian Bible. And I met the scholar one time. We were at a dinner they were at, and I talked to him about it. And I'd heard about these 22 books and how it's the 40 days after Christ was crucified. He came back and he spent that time before the disciples all came out and said, woo, woo, we're here.
Yeah.
They were actually in the background being trained by Christ. And he was telling them that they should be very careful that the church does not become a place of buildings and men in long robes telling people how to live their lives. That's actually, some of the stuff that's in there is just incredible. And one of the things he said is people need to understand nothing can stand between you and spirit, not a church, not a person, nothing.
Exactly.
That all of us are born with connection or our own guides, our own spirit guides. And my life would have been so much easier if someone had told me that, years ago. I'm going to do a whole thing on the Ethiopian Bible and why we should take a long, hard look at it and the Roman Church kept this hidden. They knew where it was. They couldn't get to it because it was in Ethiopia, but they knew this heretical books were out there because they'd occasionally pop up in Egypt. And it was everything that the Catholic Church, everything that all the heavily organized churches are not. One of the other things Christ said, and does this sound like now? Beware of men that would take my word to build large buildings for themselves and to live in luxury while the people they should be serving are starving.
Yeah.
Does that sound like Joel Osteen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
And I've had people that are part of the church, and they tell me that I'm going to hell and I'm part of the devil and I'm demon possessed. And I'm like, no,
I'm actually possessed of the spirit. And the church, the Catholic Church is probably the best group I've ever seen other than the Republican Party at misnaming things. Like they call it the Save Voting Act. It's not going to save your vote. It's designed to take away your vote. But the church says things like, if you do these things, if you directly connect to your spirit outside of using our priests, you're possessed of the devil. Now, who's really possessed of the devil? The priests that are putting those robes on. And when I was a little child, we used to talk about how they dressed up like women so they could tell us what to do.
That's funny.
Are you raised Catholic then? Are you a lapsed Catholic or a recovering Catholic? Or
my mother was Lutheran. My father was Catholic.
Oh, you got two.
Yeah, and I was just those two religions were like oil and water. And then my mom's like, "You're going to be raised Methodist." I was like. And I was like, oh, no, no. So then people are going to go, oh, shame on you here. But I completely walked away from the church.
No, that's not shame on you. It's declaring your own self.
Yeah, I completely walked away from the church when I was 35 because I've had enough because I was being made fun of and I was being talked about behind my
Mhm.
back. I was like, this is not what Christianity is about, true
Mhm.
Christianity. So I left. And then shortly after that is when my gifts went knock, knock, knock. Hello.
Yes, we're here. That's why
Yeah.
you've been put out in the desert, so you could find your real talents.
Hmm.
Okay. Um, has your work changed your worldwide view or beliefs about life and death?
Yes. Yes. Because of the church, I believed that um, it was just a certain way and you were going to go down and burn
Mm-hmm.
when you die. But now I know that when you die, you go to a good place.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be in purgatory for a while, and then which is not what you think, because I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then you just do your life review, and then you work on yourself, and you stay up there in a good place. And yeah, it's not what the church tells you.
It's Have you watched many NDE stories where people had near death experiences and what they thought they saw?
Yeah,
Almost inevitably, the ones that see real sackcloth and ashes and really being dragged through it, that's what they were told was going to happen. So
yeah.
that's what their mind created for them to see. I
Oh,
never.
yeah. And my grandpa and my uncle, who both passed away, they both told me that they're waiting for me when it's my time. So, and
Good.
they're up in the ether.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
So, yeah, I know where I'm going.
Well, when I decided not to go last June, and my guide said look to the right, I saw all these people waving at the fence at the end of this golden trail, and I went, "Is there a plan B here? Because I don't think I want to go there." So that's when I decided to walk out and decided to live. But
Mm.
um, I've thought back on whose faces were in the gate, and it's so funny because one of the women was someone I just did not recognize, and I was explaining what she looked like to Jeffrey, and he goes, "Did she have like a whole lot of bracelets on her arm?" And he goes, "That's my mother." And he told
What?
me, I said, she was ready for me to come on over and talk. And I said, okay,
Not my time yet. Thank
not my time.
you.
Thank you. Um, okay, now we're going to get to what's one of the most powerful readings you've ever done. You don't have to give us the person's name or all the circumstances, but why was it either powerful for the person or powerful for you?
The most powerful reading I did was even before I acknowledged it full
Mm-hmm.
force.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I had a friend who would call me constantly and complain about her then boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And out of the blue, I'll tell you, I tell people this. It's part of my story. Um, and I told her, I said, 3 months from now, if you do not get away from him, 3 months from now, he will try to unalive you.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, oh, I'll listen to you. I'll listen to you. I'll break. She didn't.
Mm-hmm.
3 months later, she was in the car with him. They were
Mm-hmm.
having this huge argument, and he opened up the door on her side and shoved her out of the car and started backing up.
Oh
And
wow.
if she hadn't been caught in her seatbelt, she would have gotten her head run over.
Ooh.
So, and I saw that. I saw it,
Mm-hmm.
and I told her, I said, girl, and she told me what happened. I said, I told you it happened.
Had she finally broken up with him? Was that enough?
No,
I've had
no,
to.
she didn't break up with him for another 6 months.
Ew.
I know,
Well,
but yeah, it, I was like, whoa, that really happened, and that's what really got my mind going. Like,
I'm seeing things now. I know I'm really seeing real things. I did a
yeah,
reading one time that was very similar. I did this one woman, I did her Halloween party 5 years in a row. And it was the same group of women. They'd been young women in college together, and then they would meet, and they were all now up and coming, rising in the ranks, young executives at different sorts of big companies that Dallas is like full of. And
hmm
this one woman, she seemed the most out of place. She seemed the most quiet. She seemed like a Minnie Mouse in a bunch of show cats, you know? And
okay,
and I mean, but they weren't show cats, and I mean, it's just what they had to become who they wanted to be. I last time I read them, a lot of them were changing. A lot of them have gotten married, had kids, and done different things. But anyway, this one particular young woman, she sat down, and I'd start out with what's going on around you for the next 3 months, and I laid the cards down, and I go, "When did you die?"
oh,
And she looked at me and she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You died, and you came
hmm
back, and you're not dealing with it very well." And I thought she was going to throw up. Anyway, she said, "Can we talk real quietly?" And the way the party was set up, nobody could hear what was happening over my table. So we talked. And her boyfriend had tried to kill her 3 months before. He just came up behind her in the hallway, strangled her, and then he chickened out, or he called an ambulance or something. Anyway, she by the time she woke up in the hospital, he'd already spread the rumor that they were doing kinky sex, and it had gotten a little out of control. And he had the sympathy of the whole staff, and she was trying to say, "No, I was walking down the hallway. Had nothing to do
hmm
with it." And she got so tired of people, "Oh, that's okay, honey. People just like to do that." And she was like, she just broke up with him the that day. She wouldn't let him near her in the hospital. She said, "Don't let him in here."
yeah,
And so then she just went on with her life as if
nothing
that.
happened. That's
And
not
I
good. That's not
and and the reason wasn't because he killed her and because the hospital staff wouldn't believe it. She had an NDE in between, and she'd been directed, "No, you could die now, but we're not going to let you. You're going back."
good.
And that the NDE made her feel crazier. And now this was pre-COVID, so this is 7, 8 years ago, more than 8 years ago. So she'd never heard of NDEs or any of that stuff. And um,
Yeah, because I've had one too. So
excuse me. So I said, "Well, there are groups that can help you with this." And she said, "Nobody's ever been through what I was through." And I said, "No, there really are." So by the time she left my table, I'd given her the name of at least two NDE groups in Dallas that she could get in contact with.
hmm
And then, hold for a second.
bless you.
Something's blowing in the wind. So, and I didn't see her. I remembered the reading, and I hoped that she'd do something, but I kind of walked on and was doing lots of other stuff. And the
Yeah.
next Halloween party, she came down real early and said, "I want to talk to you."
Oh,
And I said, "Oh." And I said, "How'd it go?" And she said, "I don't know." She said, "I guess you would say the universe put you in front of me." But she said she went to the two NDE groups. She found the one she fit in the best. In the NDE group was a woman who'd also had an NDE, but was an attorney. And when she explained what happened and how they'd completely written off her complaint and stuff, she said,
hmm
"No, we're going to go to the cops with it now." She said, "Oh, but they all are." She said, "No, no, no. He will." She said, "I have a friend who works with this." Anyway, her
hmm
officer friend talked to her, and he said, "If you'll come take a lie detector and prove to us what you say is true, then we can start a file on him. And if he tries this again, he won't get away with it." And so the woman attorney went with her. She took the lie detector test, passed, explained to him what had happened, and they said, "Thank you." 3 months later,
Oh, he did it again.
except he killed her. not my
Um,
friend, but the woman he was dating. And when they showed up in the ER, the cops showed up before he even got out of the ER, and they said, "You have to come talk with us." And they go, and he goes, "Well, I don't know why." Well, they would never have known. I mean, the staff would have said this looks suspicious, but they would have never had the background information. Anyway, he's now serving life without parole. And,
yes.
and she said he he took that charge because they said they were going to bring her in. They were going to bring in the lie detector she'd done and shown how he'd been getting away with this fight. And they found another woman he'd attacked. And they said they're both going to come in and testify against you, and you'll get.
Mm,
And in Texas, we have the death penalty. They said you have
yeah.
life parole, or we put you on trial, you're going to get the death penalty. So he reneged. So anyway, I said, well, how do you feel? And she said she now goes out and lectures to people about NDEs. And she said, I've since been given more light on my what they told me on the other side. And she said, I'm now doing, but she said, nobody here, none of those women know anything about this because they knew him. He was part of their college crowd. They
No.
knew he'd gone down, but nobody knew they were all into their own lives and that. Anyway,
Well, I've had two NDEs.
really?
Two. Yeah. Somebody up there wants me here. Um, First one was when I was born. I was born deceased, and they declared me dead,
Mm-hmm.
and then I came back on my own, and that's how I got my gifts.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was I was going into the hospital for a routine partial hysterectomy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently something went wrong. See, even routine surgeries can go bad.
Oh, more people die from things that happen to them in the hospital, mistakes and drugs
Yeah,
and.
I was, something went, I was under, so I didn't know, but
Mm-hmm.
my dad was like, my dad was like, you can't be here. My dad kept me from going.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, it's not your time, hon. You need to go back. I was like, okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, and my dad was there. My grandpa was in the background. Uh, it, so I came back. Sometimes I'm like, why?
No, you'll find out. You're here because you're supposed to be here. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's just, we all agreed to be down here and live through this crap. So I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So we'll see. But then, shortly after that was when my gifts kicked in, and um it
They
just
only had to kill you twice to get you to pay attention. I don't understand your
I
reluctance.
know. I had to die twice.
Mhm. That
Uh,
explains your healing abilities, though.
yeah,
Your Amy does healings. I'm going to let her do a little more on what she does. Um, okay. What advice would you give someone who's just starting to explore their gifts, other than having an NDE to get there? Please.
I know. Do not do that, let
Well,
alone twice. Well, the first one wasn't my fault.
well, it wasn't your fault. The second one wasn't either.
Oh, true. True. But if somebody was to come to me and ask questions, I'd be like, sure, I'll answer the best of my ability, and I would point them in the direction that they're interested.
Mm-hmm.
People say, well, you need to. I've had Scott didn't do this to me, but I have had, or Sherry and Linda and Scott didn't do this to me, but I have had not readers in this community, but other
Mm-hmm.
readers tell me you need to start out like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, but I don't want to do that. I want to do something different. And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
no, the best way to do is to do this. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what kept me from
Oh,
doing it until I met Scott and Linda and Sherry. And I'm like, okay, I'll do it this way.
okay. Just put your foot in the water and go.
Yeah, because I was just like I just kept being told you have to do it in a certain way, and if you don't, then it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And how was I supposed to know? I was new to it.
Well, time anybody tells me I have to go about it this way, I've already left the room. So you had me.
That was back when I was very much listening to what people said.
I understand.
But now I'm just like, well, screw that. And I am a tenacious, strong, can't tell me what to do individual.
Mm-hmm.
But having cerebral palsy and all that also makes me
Mm-hmm.
tenacious. But
Mm-hmm.
having two death experiences and seeing things and hearing things, and it makes you strong.
Yeah.
It can either drive you crazy or make
Mm-hmm.
you strong, and it made me strong.
Okay. Do you have any daily habits or exercises you recommend that have to do with your spiritual life?
For me, I I like to stay in a very happy state.
Mm-hmm.
So I do listen to my favorite music. I watch my favorite shows. But and also if you really want to relax, listen to your favorite kind of music to help you meditate and keep calm, and you know just stay happy. Do things that make you feel happy. Listen to music that helps you relax.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's what I do. And it works.
Yeah, and it really, I read a quote the other day and it said something about reconsider your life if you stressed yourself out. If you have spent time seeking out the headline that was going to, agitate you, how much
Hmm.
better it would have been to go out and find a plant that you thought was really pretty.
Yes, yes.
And in the long term, what one's better for you to do? And that's always been how I felt about spiritual things. That's why the only uh, politics I do is with Scott on Sunday.
Yes.
And I used to be in it 24/7, guys. I can tell you, there's nothing going on in the political world that hasn't already happened before, won't happen again, and there's they have a way of setting you to feel powerless. Now, may I say, Miss Amy, and I'm going to steal some more of your time. If you're planning to go no kings on the 28th, go to a rally.
Oh,
If you can't go to
yeah.
a rally and you have a friend who's going, give them $5 to pay for the gas to pay to be there. Do whatever you can to support it. Or the other thing you can do is five calls
Hmm.
to your congressman, your senator, or to local officials about things, because that's how we beat them.
Yeah. And
And
it's working.
right, and then you do that, and that's a task off the table, and then you just go in, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Uh,
Everybody's like, well, how can this help us? How it's working. It's
yes,
working.
it's working. And how can and this is another question, this got nothing to do with what we just talked about. How can someone find a trustworthy psychic community or mentor? When you watch somebody, what says to you the little red flags go up around your ears saying, I don't think I'm coming back here again, or make you feel calm?
If if I am at somebody's channel
Mm-hmm.
and they st- I just listen to the way they talk, how they
Mm-hmm.
talk. It, they could be talking, peace, love, dove.
Mm-hmm.
But if I don't like the feeling I'm getting off of them, because I'm a very strong empathic person,
Okay.
if I don't like the feeling that's coming off of them, I'm like, oh, no, I'm
Mm-hmm.
gone. That's why I gravitate toward people like you and Scott and Linda and Sherry and Karen and Jackie B and
Mm-hmm.
people like that, because y'all have good spirits.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell. I could also look into a person's eyes
Mm-hmm.
and see what they're going through.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody can do that. I found
No.
out that's a very rare thing.
Right.
But I'm able to look into their eyes, and they'll be acting all peace, love, dove, happy, and I can look in their eyes, and I'll go, "You're lying."
Mm-hmm.
So,
And
mm,
I think that's all. It's there are more sensory nerves around your heart and in your gut that have serotonin, that's sort of how we perceive things, than there are in our brain. When you look at
yep,
the energy field around your brain, it's a little bit, but around here it's really big. So
yes,
when people say, it punched me in my gut, they're not kidding. And that's, go with your own gut. And no matter
yeah,
what somebody else, I have friends who, you know, they'll say, "Oh, watch this reader," and I'll watch them, and they'll say, "What'd you think?" And I'll go, um,
no,
"No, it just didn't work,"
no,
or mm-mm. Or they weren't really there for the reading, and that, something was there for the reading, but not anyway. That's it's
the
really.
people that connected with that, the people there that connected with them, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to go somewhere where we feel they're authentic.
Right, right, and okay. And what's the biggest lessons you've learned on your psychic journey?
Don't be so judgmental.
Mm-hmm.
I used to be so judgmental.
Yeah.
I know, shocker. But I was, because I was raised in a very abusive, judgmental home.
Mm-hmm.
My mom taught me to be that way because that's the only way I was going to survive being disabled, because nobody would want me, blah, blah, blah. So I would have to fight being judgmental and being nasty. And then, and my guides were like, no, 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 what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And they kicked me in the butt and
Mm-hmm.
got smacked on the, I did it. They did a Gibbs slap, if any of you know what that is.
Mm-mm.
There was a character on NCIS.
Oh, Gibbs. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well. Yeah.
Gibbs. He would, in the beginning, he would,
Yeah.
if they were being if they were being obtuse,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, okay, boss, sorry. Well, they
Mm-hmm.
they would constantly me on the back of the head. So, and now I'm much more open. I'm much more loving and forgiving. Um, so, and not I'm not saying I still don't go through hard times, but
Mm-hmm.
I am so much. I'm happier now than I have been in the last 6 years. Well, I am going through a hard time because of my mother and everything else, being in hospice and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
um, she and her kidneys have stopped, so she's halfway in and halfway out right now. But I'm I'm so much better than I was when I first started.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If you were
Yeah.
to watch me in the early days to now, you'd be like, "That's her." Yeah.
Well. Okay. This is check out Amy on YouTube. Amy Warrior Princess. It's going to be on the bottom till we're done. Is there anything else you want to tell them? Because I know at the beginning I sort of said, "What tools do you use?" That's the end of the formal questions. Everybody knows that's the last question: is what have you learned on this journey? So, what tools do you use, and what do you want to tell people if they get in touch with you? What can they expect?
I Like I said, I use tarot and oracle, and I'm learning runes. I'm learning um scrying, which is a
Mm,
trip.
yeah, talk about
Um
inside your head.
yeah. Um phew. I also do healing,
Mm-hmm.
which I found out I could do by accident.
Mm-hmm.
So it's it what you see here is
Mm-hmm.
what you get when you do a reading.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same as I am on screen as I am behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And when I give you a reading, I will I will be as caring as I possibly can, but I will tell you the truth. You know, if it's a hard thing you need to know, I will tell you, but I will do it in a caring way.
Well, it's an important that somebody tells you the truth, because trust me, there's nothing worse than seeing people get lied to. First of all, it
Yeah.
makes them think what we do isn't real because they know you're
Right.
lying to them. And
Yeah.
so just, the truth is the truth.
The truth. And there, I'll tell you this story. I was on the phone with somebody, um, customer service person, and we were waiting for something to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And something told me, you need to tell them what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I told him, and he's like, "Oh, really? Is that so?" I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah." I right then and there I knew why, because he was he's
Looking.
like, "Yeah, it doesn't exist. It's not true." I said, "Yeah, I am." And he's like, "That's okay." I said, "Ask me anything." I didn't do it in a judgmental way. I was like, "Just ask me anything you want."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Okay." And he tried to make it as obtuse as he could to make it difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Is there anything you can sense about me at all?" Um, and that's about as obtuse as you could get.
Yeah. Just read the blank me.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh Lordy, here we go."
Mm-hmm.
So I he gave me permission to lock in, okay? Because he
Mm-hmm.
said, "Find out what you can." So I locked into him, and I said, "Well, I see lots and lots of water, and I see somebody standing on the shore of this really sunny, sandy place, and I see a boat.
Mm-hmm.
And this person is getting on the boat, and you're going out in the sea, and you're just on the top of the, and you're just laying in the sun with your shades with their shades on, and you're just lapping up the sunshine. And through this whole thing, he's going, "Oh my God. Oh my God. Are
Mm-hmm.
you for real? Oh my God." And it just kept getting louder and louder and louder. And then by the end of it, he said, "You're for real." I said, "Why?" Is he because I live on a houseboat, and one of my favorite things to do is lay on the deck in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to take the houseboat and sail in the middle of the water.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, tell me I'm fake.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fake.
I know.
But I
Well,
didn't shove it in his face.
no.
I didn't. So, but to myself, I went, don't call me a liar.
Mm-hmm.
So,
No,
yeah,
don't judge what I do.
yeah, just
I
don't, because
always
they'll
tell
shove it in
people
your
what
face.
I always tell people what I do, and I tell my doctors what I do. And when I was locked up in the hospital in June, everybody knew I was a psychic medium. And I think that was a good thing because there were things happening in my room. Like one day I was feeling rather down because they weren't going to let me go yet. And I said, "Am I ever going to see Hogarth and my little friends again?" And the whole room lit up with the fairy lights that I see when the elementals want to let me know that they're around, physically
Hmm.
there. And I was going, "Oh, you're here, you're here, you're here." And the nurse had opened the door, and I was in an open room. I was in a room where they could almost do surgery on you. I was in a blue code blue floor. If your mom's in hospice.
Okay.
And I actually didn't have to stay on that floor. They offered me the option to leave. It's a little bit noisy, but I created a wall buffer and kind of blocked some of the noise out. But I saw all
Mhm.
my little fairy lights around me, and one of the nurses who had gotten used to who I was, she came in and she goes, "What was that?" And I said, "Oh, you saw them. They didn't mean for you to. That was my light show coming in telling me that I'm probably going to get out of here in 24 hours." And she said, "That's what I was coming in to tell you, is you're probably going to get out of here in 24 hours." And I left, and then I left about 24 hours later in the late afternoon.
Yeah,
But, you know,
but yeah,
because otherwise people just think they're going crazy being around you.
yeah, but they're not. They're just seeing it by proxy.
Unless they're your children. And my children constantly think that they're going crazy because they're around me. But I can't help with that.
Yeah, it's stuff happens around my niece and nephew when I'm around them, and they think they're going crazy. It's like, nope, it ain't me, or it's me,
It's
but it's not
you
my
because
fault.
you're a catalyst for their energy.
Yeah,
There's a whole lot about how we exchange energy. We all need to learn and know and do. Well, I cannot tell you, Amy, how excited I am to have had you here. I We didn't have the largest attendance, but this will go out to over 500 people by the end of the day. I have a lot of people that don't watch it at 1, but then they watch it later on.
right.
And
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was such a treat.
and for those of you who don't know, next Thursday, and this one I'm gonna send you, the notice is already out there. Tim Walter is in England, so I'm doing his show at 10:30 in the morning here. That's at 3:30 in the afternoon where he is, which is a reasonable time to do something.
Yes.
And Tim's going to talk about his spiritual journey. It's not going to be a psychic profiles. I've already done that. Um, he's written a book called What Now? And it's about how to create a good spiritual journey. And I've read the
Mhm.
book. It's really good. He teaches you some real good grounding methods, and he tells some very interesting stories, a lot like what we've discussed here. In
Yes.
his case, he found spiritualism and moved into a haunted house at the
Yeah.
same time. At the same time, his brother was being institutionalized by the National Health Services for psychiatric problems.
Oh,
So Tim took the "I'm going to be a psychic," and his brother took the other way. So,
yeah.
guys, not as a word of warning, but anyway,
Mm-mm.
and it's very interesting when you hear Scott talk about it, how all that sort of starts to make sense about how we all work out the shadow sides of our life.
Yeah.
And some of us choose to ditch the shadow and walk into daylight, and some of us choose to walk further into the shadows. So,
Now that's true. Oh, I forgot to say, if you would like to reach me for a reading,
mm-hmm.
my email is on my description page, but it's whovianfanforever@gmail.com.
A Doctor Who fan.
Yes, I am.
Yes, my oldest son was who was a Who fanatic, and he met Pertwee,
Oh,
and
he got to meet John Pertwee. Oh my God, he's my
he,
favorite.
he's met a couple. You ought to ask Sean on his channel. He's met several of. I used to let him go to Doctor Who conventions here in Dallas.
John Pertwee is my favorite classic doctor next to Tom Baker.
Oh, Tom Baker's, and I think Sean's met Tom Baker.
Oh, he's 93 now.
Oh, I know, but Sean, this was 30 years ago when Sean he would have been 63. Same curly hair though.
Yep. Yep. He
We'll,
don't even get me. I mean, I love Doctor
we'll
Who. I've
have
seen it
we'll
all.
have to talk about Doctor Who some other time. We're gonna end the stream now. Bye,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye, everybody.